The men in black. They've been the stuff of urban legends for decades. Many believe they are government agents, sent out to silence anyone who gets too close to the truth about UFOs and alien encounters. They're always described as wearing black suits, driving black cars, and often speaking in monotone voices. But is there any truth to these stories? In this investigation, C4 Detective conducted extensive research to try to find the origin of these shadowy figures. We will tell you about some of the first and some of the strangest encounters, and after, we will provide our expert analysis in order to provide you the real facts behind this phenomenon. This is Men in Black, Truth Revealed. Government agents in America have existed in one form or another since the founding of the country. However, the concept of the men in black seemed to be a phenomenon that started in the 20th century. In World War II, rumors of secret German laboratories working on wonder weapons persisted, along with numerous legitimate reports of UFOs by Allied pilots, referred to as Foo Fighters. Often associated with these reports and rumors include stories of so-called government agents ordering military personnel not to talk about what they had seen with anyone. But the true mystery surrounding the men in black began at the beginning of the atomic age in 1945, and the associated UFO reports that seemed to increase right along with it. 1947 was the year that saw the greatest increase in UFO sightings in the modern era, and many of these sightings led to some of the first encounters with who the public would begin referring to as the Men in Black. On June 24, 1947, civilian pilot Kenneth Arnold made an extraordinary claim that he witnessed multiple UFOs flying past Mount Rainier in Washington state at supersonic speeds. When Arnold described the object's shiny, round appearance, the media soon coined the term flying saucer. However, just 3 days prior to this incident on June 21st, a man named Harold Dahl was on a boat patrolling near Maury Island, located in the Puget Sound, just 20 miles northwest of Mount Rainier. Dahl had his 15-year-old son and dog with him. Dahl described 6 donut-shaped objects, similar to Arnold's account, hovering above his boat. After a few minutes of observing the objects, one of them seemed to break off, dropping in altitude, before small pieces of metal began to drop from its center. Dahl stated it looked like thousands of newspapers falling from the object. Pieces of the metallic debris hit Dahl's dog, killing the animal, with another piece injuring his son. When Dahl told his supervisor, Fred Chrisman, about the incident, Chrisman went to the area himself and was able to recover pieces of the metallic debris. What makes this UFO story unique is that it was one of the first widely known civilian encounters with the supposed men in black. The day after this incident, Dahl was approached by a man dressed in a dark suit. Dahl was urged to go with the man to a local diner so that Dahl could relay his story about the UFOs. According to the book, they knew too much about flying saucers. After conveying the story, the unknown man told Dahl,
"What I have said is proof to you that I know a great deal more about this experience of yours than you will want to believe."
The unknown man further told Dahl never to speak about the incident again, and if he did, bad things would happen, adding further intrigue to the story. Kenneth Arnold, the pilot who claimed to witness UFOs near Mount Rainier, eventually met with Chrisman after hearing about the story. Chrisman showed Arnold the debris he collected, which led Arnold to eventually contacting Lieutenant Frank Brown and Captain William Davidson, intelligence officers with the U.S. Army Air Force out of California. Brown and Davidson collected the debris from Chrisman and arranged a flight back to California. On the way back, the B-25 military plane that Brown and Davidson were in mysteriously crashed, killing all aboard. The debris they had with them was never seen again. In the days and weeks following these incidents, multiple UFO reports came in around the Pacific Northwest claiming to see similar objects. This began an increase of sightings around the U.S. One of these reports included one of the most famous UFO stories of all time, the infamous Roswell incident. C4 Detective will be doing a separate video on the Roswell incident with detailed analysis and new evidence in the near future, so we won't talk about it much in this video. However, the Roswell incident itself also includes unconfirmed reports of supposed government agents in suits involved in an alleged cover-up. While the story of Harold Dahl is fascinating, it was not the case that brought the Men in Black to public attention. For that, we have to fast forward 6 years to a UFO enthusiast named Albert K. Bender. In 1952, Bender was living at 784 Broad Street in Bridgeport, Connecticut. His interest in UFO sightings led him to create the first well-known UFO organization, the International Flying Saucer Bureau, or IFSB. The IFSB eventually boasted 600 members worldwide, with Bender and his associates sending out regular newsletters regarding UFO accounts and publishing a quarterly journal, the Space Review. However, not long after the IFSB was formed, strange occurrences began to happen to Bender. These included mysterious phone calls, strange health concerns, odd sulfur smells coming from his attic, and even what he described as telepathic messages being conveyed to him telling him to cease investigating matters that were not his concern. In one occurrence in late 1952, Bender was at a movie theater when he noticed a strange man with seemingly glowing eyes watching him. Trying to ignore this, Bender walked home and believed he was being followed. Oddly enough, at this time of these incidents there appeared to be an outbreak of UFO sightings across Connecticut. In July of 1953, 3 men dressed in black suits and black hats visited Bender at his home. The men told Bender that he was to immediately cease with all of his UFO research and publications. The men seized copies of the Space Review, and Bender stated that they also communicated telepathically with him to stop his UFO work. Bender stated that he was scared to death and was unable to eat for days. However, this was only the first encounter Bender would have with the alleged Men in Black. In the weeks that followed, Bender believed these men continued to follow and watch him. These incidents led Bender to shut down the IFSB, with the final issues of the Space Review being released in October of 1953 that included a mysterious message.
The mystery of the flying saucers is no longer a mystery. The source is already known, but any information about this is being withheld by orders from a higher source. We would like to print the full story in Space Review, but because of the nature of the information, we have been advised in the negative. We advise those engaged in saucer work to be very cautious.
Following Bender's experience, the Men in Black phenomenon continued to persist. There are now countless encounters of these mysterious figures questioning and attempting to silence individuals who have had alleged UFO encounters or who actively research UFO reports. Although the eyewitness accounts are numerous, there have only been a handful of encounters that have produced physical evidence giving validity to these stories. Among this evidence includes the 1968 account of John Jack Robertson, a known researcher of UFOs, who was living with his wife at the time in New Jersey. Upon returning home one day, both Jack and his wife reported that their apartment appeared to have been searched by an unknown person. During this same time, the couple noticed a mysterious man in a black suit watching their apartment for several days across the street. A friend of Robertson, upon hearing of the couple's story of being watched, was able to take this photograph of the mysterious man in what has come to be known as the first actual picture of one of the Men in Black. While several other unconfirmed pieces of evidence have come forward since, one of the most recent comes from Niagara Falls, Canada in 2008. The entire region had seen multiple UFO sightings, most reporting a black, triangular-shaped object in the sky. In October of that year, a hotel manager and security guard at the Sheraton Fallsview Hotel claimed to have seen this triangular UFO right outside the hotel. A private group called the Aerial Phenomenon Investigations Team stated they interviewed multiple witnesses who saw the same, as well as 2 men in black suits, who came to the hotel a few months later, in early 2009, asking questions about the UFO and demanding to speak with the hotel manager and security guard who witnessed it. At the time of this encounter, the hotel manager and security guard were not at the hotel. Later, upon hearing of this, the hotel manager reviewed security footage revealing these men in black. This footage was provided to the Aerial Phenomenon Investigations team, who eventually released it to the public online along with a phone interview of the manager.
Can we go in your office and talk? I brought him into my office and he says, something really weird happened here yesterday and you weren't here. He said, there's a couple guys in here looking for you. And I said, a couple guys? What do you mean? And he said, well, this is really hard for me to say. He said, but there's a couple really strange looking men that were here. And they kind of freaked everybody out and they were asking questions about you. And of course, now I'm getting a little bit nervous and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, he goes, I don't know how to describe them except for extremely odd looking. They were really, really tall. He said, and they were identical height. They were the exact same height. They were wearing the exact same clothes and they had the exact same faces, like they were twins. And he said they were wearing black suits, black trench coats. They were wearing like the old-fashioned fedora hats. They had extremely, extremely pale skin. And he said they came in and they looked around a little bit and they asked for you. And I said, I'm sorry, he's actually not working today. And it seemed like they didn't believe me. So they started to walk around the hotel, and shortly after they went to the tour desk and he goes, I got busy. I started to have to bring cars around and get luggage. And by the time I came back, they were gone. But he goes, they freaked me out, and I really wanted to tell you that there were these weird guys in here looking for you. So, of course, now I'm a little bit skeptical and I'm a little bit freaked out all at the same time. So the first thing I do is I run into my security office, because I know how to work the security system, and I rewound the cameras, and sure enough, here comes two gentlemen through the front door looking exactly how he described. Then the next day, I was talking with my tour desk, and one of them asked to talk to me. She came in my office, the same as my bellman, and she said, I need to tell you about something that happened. I heard that you heard that there were some men looking for you. And I said, yes. And she said, they asked a few questions about you, and they said strange things that I didn't understand. And they were talking about governments and conspiracies, and none of it made any sense to me. But she goes, they were very, very scary. And I said, well, why were they scary? And she said, they had no facial hair, none. She said they had no eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. Their hair looked like they had a wig on, like it was attached to their hat, like it wasn't even real. And she said, and the scariest thing, their eyes were so big and so blue that they almost hypnotized me a little bit. And she goes, and you're going to think I'm crazy when I tell you this, but I swear they knew what I was thinking. I swear. And I don't think I'm crazy, but I don't even know how they could do it, and I don't know why I'm even telling you this. She goes, so I started to think about things other than you, and I don't even know if it worked. And she started to cry, and she said one more thing before she left. She said, these men, they didn't blink. Not once did I see them blink.
While there are dozens of additional accounts we researched, the previous depictions represent some of the earliest, most fantastic, and recent stories of the Men in Black, with the latter providing the few pieces of physical evidence known to exist. But are these stories true? Like many urban legends, the truth of the stories behind the Men in Black contain real events, exaggerated claims, and even hoaxes. So let's start at the beginning. UFOs, and what are today commonly referred to in government circles as unidentified aerial phenomenon or UAP, are real, for the most part. C4 Detective will be doing several videos in the future on UFOs and UAPs, so we won't dive deep into that subject right now. But know that because they are real, there are actual government agencies and agents who look into these events. With that said, the World War II stories of Foo Fighters and secret German military projects did in fact happen. There are dozens of unclassified reports and accounts from actual military veterans who have confirmed them. While the more fantastic stories, such as UFOs being flown by the German military, are not confirmed, we are aware of actual secret projects being conducted by German scientists during the war, and the Foo Fighters were seen by both American and other Allied pilots in Germany and surrounding areas at that time. Immediately following the war, special agents with the U.S. Army Counterintelligence Corps or CIC, along with members of other clandestine services such as the Office of Strategic Services or OSS, were present in investigating many of these reports. Additionally, much like the Soviet Union, they secreted away many German scientists back to the U.S. under an approved activity later revealed to be called Operation Paperclip. In terms of government agencies who may be at least part of the solution to who the men in black really are, the likely historical options are the Army CIC and the Air Force Office of Special Investigations or OSI. C4 Detective has learned that from the 1970s through 1990s, the OSI actively ran several localized counterintelligence programs specifically targeted at UFO researchers. Some of these programs were put into place to protect actual classified aviation technologies in development and were used to confuse both foreign spies and U.S. citizens who may be getting too close to discovering real classified projects. It is therefore likely that during these events, when secrecy was of utmost importance to protect against both the German and Soviet Union intelligence services, CIC agents had to tell soldiers and other various personnel to keep quiet about what they knew. In fact, CIC agents at this time often dressed in black suits and carried badges and credentials that said military intelligence on them to convey their authority. It is therefore likely that many early stories of the Men in Black can be attributed to the CIC themselves, with many of those agents going on to join the Air Force when it branched off from the U.S. Army, in what eventually became the Air Force, OSI. While the extent of these programs and what Air Force leadership may have known about them is not known or still classified, there have been several verified reports uncovered via the Freedom of Information Act and from people who have come forward to tell their stories. One such person is former OSI Special Agent Richard Doty, who openly admitted to participating in such programs in order to feed false information to UFO conspiracy theorists and researchers. They also regularly conducted surveillance on civilians in a targeted harassment campaign that no doubt spread paranoia amongst the UFO community. While this doesn't confirm or refute the existence of UFOs, it certainly presents a strong possibility that the Air Force, OSI, like the Army CIC before them, may have at least contributed to the Men in Black legend. Still, the fact that actual government agents were investigating or spreading disinformation about UFOs is clearly not the whole story. Many accounts of Men in Black depict them as possessing unbelievable abilities such as telepathy, and many are described as being almost alien in appearance, with no hair, pale skin, and being extraordinarily tall. These accounts have conveyed the idea that at least some of the stories of the Men in Black, if true, are not human. Unfortunately, throughout our research, the only clear physical evidence of the Men in Black which C4 Detective has found demonstrates actual government agents conducting either authorized or unauthorized activities of intimidation and counterintelligence operations. What remains is testimonial evidence from individuals who may or may not be credible. In fact, several of these individuals, like Albert Bender, may have had any number of health conditions, which caused him to hallucinate and become paranoid. His strange descriptions of several events during late hours have led many to believe he even suffered from night terrors. In the case of Harold Dahl and Fred Chrisman, the FBI investigated the incident after the plane crash which killed Lieutenant Brown and Captain Davidson. Both the Air Force and the FBI concluded the Maury Island sightings were a hoax. As commented in an FBI report, Dahl stated,
If questioned by the authorities, he was going to say it was a hoax because he didn't want any further trouble over the matter.
Further, Chrisman himself was known to have made many other extraordinary claims, while also being involved in several other scandals, and there is evidence that Chrisman and Dahl attempted to profit from the story. Of course, many UFO researchers believe just because they tried to profit from the story doesn't discount its validity. And the fact that Dahl indicated it might be a hoax only confirms that he was intimidated to say that by the men in black. Whatever you believe, with no known physical evidence remaining from this case, and no known corroborating stories, it is nearly impossible to confirm. The same cannot be said for the 1968 photograph of a man in black who was allegedly conducting surveillance on UFO researcher Jack Robertson. Unfortunately, very little information exists on this incident or Jack himself. There is sufficient evidence to show he was a real person, and this photograph's age is likely correct. Therefore, we have no reason to question the story's legitimacy. However, the description of his apartment being searched and an unknown man watching them could very well have been a government operation unrelated to his UFO research. It is also possible, given the legend already being established about men in black at that time, that this person was simply mistaken for a man in black. Such was the case with several men in black sightings associated with the Mothman in West Virginia. According to Nick Redfern's book, The Real Men in Black, the man who took the photo even commented,
"The only thing that kind of made sense to me was that he was a lookout for a bookie joint or for some illegal operation."
But what about the Niagara Falls incident in 2009? As of this writing, this case remains one of the most fantastic of all the Men in Black accounts, mainly because of the video evidence that was captured. An extremely rare occurrence in the 70-plus year history of the Men in Black legend. During our research, C4 detectives spoke with the lead investigator from the Aerial Phenomenon Investigations team regarding this incident, Marcia Barnhart, who was also the one who acquired the surveillance video. She told us she believed this was the only genuine footage of Men in Black that exists, and that she personally spoke with several first-hand witnesses. She found no indications of deception or that this was a hoax. Oddly enough, the fact that this incident took place in Canada might lead you to believe these men weren't American agents, as they would be operating outside of U.S. jurisdiction. However, this is not necessarily the case. Many U.S. agencies operate regularly outside of the United States, with or without host nation approval, depending on the activity. There is also the possibility they may have been Canadian government officials, belonging to an agency such as the Canadian Security Intelligence Service or CSIS. Still, other possibilities include someone simply playing a prank, or, as some UFO theorists believe about the Men in Black, aliens posing as human. So who are the Men in Black, and are these stories real? While we can't give a definitive answer on every known account of the Men in Black, we can provide the best theory based on the evidence we have uncovered. The most likely scenario, even if there were no hoaxes, is that early World War II government agencies investigating strange aerial phenomenon and conducting secret activities, like the Army CIC, led to the myth being created. Later, when UFO reports began increasing in the 1950s, any government agency asking questions, along with any suspicious-looking people in the area of known sightings, were likely mistaken for Men in Black and incorporated into the legend. The later counterintelligence and harassment activities by agencies such as the OSI, used to obfuscate real classified programs and thwart foreign spies, no doubt fueled the flames of the Men in Black legend. As for the extraordinary claims of the Men in Black, C4 Detective has found no direct physical evidence to support the theory that the Men in Black are aliens, or are some kind of alien hybrid, as some theorists believe. This is not to say we are opposed to the idea. We at C4 Detective remain open-minded and objective, as every good investigator should. We will follow the evidence as we find it. So until new evidence is discovered, the more paranormal stories of the Men in Black cannot be confirmed. Thanks for watching. Do you have a suggestion or evidence you want to provide to C4 Detective to help us discover more? contact us and we may do a follow-up to this video. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing you investigation videos. It's the only thing that allows us to continue bringing you the truth.